Welcome to Hollywood Star Celebrity. Today, we're diving into the chilling classic Friday the 13th, 1980, where horror began and legends were born. Let's take a look at the cast then and now, and see how time has shaped these unforgettable stars. Betsy Palmer, Mrs. Voorhees. In Friday the 13th, 1980, Betsy Palmer portrayed Pamela Voorhees, the seemingly kind camp cook who is later revealed to be the vengeful killer behind the Camp Crystal Lake murders. A grieving mother driven to madness by the drowning death of her son Jason, Mrs. Voorhees is both chilling and tragic, her soft-spoken demeanor masking deadly intent. Betsy Palmer was 53 years old when she took on the role in 1980. If she were alive today in 2025, she would be 98 years old. Though she passed away in 2015, her iconic performance continues to haunt horror fans to this day. Harry Crosby, Bill. In Friday the 13th, 1980, Harry Crosby played Bill, a friendly and dependable camp counselor who brings a calm presence to the group at Camp Crystal Lake. Though he tries to keep spirits high amid growing unease, Bill ultimately falls victim to the unseen terror stalking the camp. At the time of filming, Harry Crosby was just 21 years old. In 2025, he is 66, long removed from his early horror role, but still remembered by fans of the cult classic that launched a franchise. JeannineTaylor, Marcie. JeannineTaylor took on the role of Marcie in Friday the 13th, 1980. A lively and compassionate counselor looking forward to a carefree summer at Camp Crystal Lake. Marcie shares moments of tenderness and hope before her dreams are shattered by the creeping horror that surrounds her. Jeannine was 25 years old when she brought Marcie to life. In 2025, she is 71, and while she stepped away from the screen not long after, her performance remains a memorable part of horror history. Kevin Bacon, Jack. In Friday the 13th, 1980, Kevin Bacon played Jack, a laid-back and fun-loving camp counselor hoping for a relaxing summer with friends and his girlfriend. His charm and good looks made him stand out, but his fate became one of the film's most shocking and unforgettable moments. Kevin was just 21 years old when he appeared in the film. Now in 2025, he is 66 and has become a Hollywood mainstay, far beyond his horror movie beginnings. Robbi Morgan, Annie. Robbi Morgan played Annie in Friday the 13th, 1980, a bright-eyed and enthusiastic young woman hitchhiking her way to Camp Crystal Lake for a summer job. Full of optimism and warmth, Annie's journey is tragically cut short before she even reaches the camp, marking one of the film's earliest and most shocking turns. Robbi was just 18 years old when she took on the role. In 2025, she is 63, remembered for bringing heart to a character whose fate set the tone for the terror that followed. Mark Nelson, Ned. Mark Nelson played the prankster Ned Rubenstein in Friday the 13th, 1980, the lighthearted, mischievous camp counselor whose jokes and flirtatious nature added a brief moment of levity before meeting a grim fate. At the time of filming, Nelson was 22 years old. Now in 2025, he is 67, with a celebrated career on Broadway, including roles in Angels in America, Cabaret, and A Few Good Men. Beyond acting, he shares his craft as a theater teacher at Princeton University and HB Studio in New York. Laurie Bartram, Brenda. In Friday the 13th, 1980, Laurie Bartram portrayed Brenda, a warm and caring camp counselor whose gentle nature and playful spirit made her a memorable presence at Camp Crystal Lake. Brenda was one of the more responsible and kind-hearted characters, ultimately meeting a tragic end like many others in the slasher classic. At the time of filming, Laurie was just 21 years old. Had she lived, she would have been 67 in 2025. Rex Everhart, the truck driver. Rex Everhart played the gruff yet oddly charming truck driver who gives Annie a ride partway to Camp Crystal Lake, offering both local wisdom and a stern warning about the place's dark past. His brief appearance adds a touch of realism and foreboding early in the story. At the time of filming, Rex was 59 years old. If he were still alive in 2025, he would be 105. Mary Rocco, operator. Mary Rocco appeared briefly as the telephone operator, a small but key role that subtly emphasized the isolation of the camp when communication breaks down. Her voice conveyed urgency and routine, adding a layer of realism to the tense atmosphere. She was 46 years old during filming in 1980. In 2025, she would be 92. Walt Gorney, Crazy Ralph. In Friday the 13th, 1980, Walt Gorney portrayed Crazy Ralph, a quirky, eccentric character who warns the camp counselors of the looming danger at Camp Crystal Lake. Known for his cryptic warnings like, "You're all doomed," Ralph serves as a harbinger of doom, his strange presence adding a sense of foreboding to the film. At the time of filming, Gorney was 68 years old. Now, in 2025, had he been alive, he would be 113 years old, but sadly, Walt Gorney passed away in 2004 at the age of 91. His portrayal of Ralph remains a memorable piece of horror film history. Sally and Golden, Sandy. Sally and Golden played Sandy in Friday the 13th, 1980, a sweet and innocent camp counselor whose carefree spirit is quickly overshadowed by the terror that unfolds at Camp Crystal Lake. Sandy's character adds to the youthful charm of the group, but her fate, like so many others, takes a tragic turn. At the time of filming, Golden was 69 years old. Now, in 2025, she would be 115 years old, though she sadly passed away in 1982 at the age of 71, leaving behind a brief but memorable performance in the iconic horror franchise. Dorothy Cobbs, TRYDY. Dorothy Cobbs played TRYDY in Friday the 13th, 1980, a fun and carefree camp counselor whose role adds to the youthful energy of the group. Though her character's screen time is brief, TRYDY's presence stands out in the early moments of the film as she interacts with her fellow counselors before the horror begins. At the time of filming, Cobbs was in her 20s, and now, in 2025, she would be in her mid-60s. While her role in the film remains one of her most recognized, she has kept a low profile in the years since. Ron Milkey, Officer Dorf. Ron Milkey portrayed Officer Dorf in Friday the 13th, 1980, a small-town cop who is tasked with investigating the mysterious events surrounding Camp Crystal Lake. With his calm demeanor, Dorf represents a fleeting sense of law and order before the horror escalates. At the time of filming, Milkey was 26 years old. Now, in 2025, he would be 71. Known for his distinctive height of 5 feet 11 inches and his playful nicknames like Ronnie Milk and Milky Way, Milkey has remained a memorable part of the film's cult legacy. Deborah S. Hayes Claudette. Deborah S. Hayes played Claudette in Friday the 13th, 1980, a flirtatious and carefree camp counselor who shares a playful chemistry with her fellow counselors. Though her role is brief, Claudette's interactions bring a light-hearted energy to the early moments of the film before the dark events unfold. At the time of filming, Hayes was in her 20s. Now, in 2025, she would be in her mid-60s. While Friday the 13th remains her most recognized role, she left a lasting impression on fans of the iconic slasher film. Peter Brower, Steve Christie. Peter Brower played the role of Steve Christie in Friday the 13th, 1980, a charming, confident camp counselor who runs the infamous Camp Crystal Lake. At 34 years old during the film's release, Steve was the friendly, somewhat naive leader, unaware of the dangers lurking in the camp. In 2025, at 79 years old, Peter Brower remains a beloved part of horror movie history, though his portrayal of Steve Christie is mostly remembered as part of the film's early, unsettling atmosphere, marking him as an enduring figure in slasher film lore. Adrienne King, Alice. Adrienne King portrayed Alice, the resourceful and resilient final girl in Friday the 13th, 1980. At 24 years old during the film's release, Alice was the quiet, intelligent counselor who ultimately faced off against the terror at Camp Crystal Lake. Now, at 70 years old, Adrienne King continues to embrace her iconic role, having become a cherished figure in horror film fandom, with her portrayal of Alice still remembered as a defining moment in the genre. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this trip back to Camp Crystal Lake, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more star-powered flashbacks. Let us know in the comments which movie cast you'd like to see next. We might feature your pick in our next video.